Welcome to the first home match preview of the 25-26 season here on Stones TV and the Maidstone United podcast, where we look ahead to our first visitors. They take the form of fellow playoff contenders from last season, Torquay United. So we start with a reflection on opening day at Hemel. Nigel conceding a late equaliser after a fairly dominant performance. Just needed that bit more composure in front of goal, and Michael Johnson with about 10 saves kept the hosts in it. Your thoughts on the 1-1 draw?
Yeah, it was one of those classic games, wasn't it? You know, don't take your chances when you're on top, and for large parts of that game, Maidstone were on top. You know, George said it in his interview afterwards, didn't he? You know, the plan was executed to perfection. It's just that last, well, I wouldn't even say 10 minutes, really. It was like the last 5 minutes, really, wasn't it? They had that shot that sort of hit the crossbar and sort of hit the A-frame, didn't it? And come out, and then it was one of the substitutes that they made that scored the equalising goal. So, I mean, it's just you know you've been that dominant when the opposition manager Lee Ellison came out in his press conference afterwards and said they were lucky to get a point in there out of that game. And first game of the season, and we all said, didn't we, before the game that you'd take a draw right now, but you know, some draws are better than other draws, aren't they? You know, the manner of them, and like you say, big up to Michael Johnson. I mean, he made 3 brilliant saves, didn't he? Really, you know, when there was another few others that he was just in the right place and just put the strikers off, and just doing what all goalkeepers do, really. And there's certainly positives to take from it. You know,
exactly. That's what George said in his post-match. Because again, being that dominant, being on the front foot for the majority of the match, showing they can create the chances. Again, as I've already said, it's just that little bit in front of goal that we're lacking potentially. We'll wait and see how they get on in the next few games, but in that particular 90 minutes... Yeah,
and it's just, again, it's just frustrating, isn't it, that it seems to be our Achilles heel that we can't really deal with the crosses, it's that first phase, sometimes you've just got to clear the ball, especially if you're in the last 5 minutes of a game, you've just got to clear the ball, and we didn't really see as well that managing the game in the last 5 minutes, taking the ball to the corners and that, it's almost so like we just had fuzzy heads at that point because it was...
I mean, we then had to change for John Gilbert having to come off.
Yeah.
There was a few that had to come off because of yellow cards, but doing that just before a set piece...
Well, exactly. I mean, that's the old adage, isn't it? You never make a substitute on a set piece, but I know it didn't. The commentary wasn't there, but we did say it at the time. John Gilbert, he cleared that ball out for a throw-in. Got a yellow card for it because he mistimed that challenge, which was okay, a yellow card. But then a few phases later, he lost possession in the front in his own half, and he tried to do a recovery tackle. Luckily, he missed that, but you can see why he picked up those yellow cards. Exactly. And George was probably protecting him. So I can see the reasons why he did it.
Yes,
but it was just the way it played out. Was frustrating. Lessons to be learned there all round, really, from John himself as well. Like he said in the fans forum at the beginning of the season, you want your best players on the pitch, don't you? And especially in situations like that when you're defending a corner or a free kick, you want that your out player to be an out, don't you?
Exactly.
So otherwise, bringing the defenders on, everybody's just in the box, and then don't know who you're picking up, and then the ball, because the first phase we cleared the first phase, but because there was nobody out there, it came back in again, and then they got that half chance, and he put it away. So, I say frustrating, but certainly lessons to be learned, and hopefully we can take those lessons and move on.
We shall. So to our visitors on Saturday and their summer transfer activity. Before we mention those who departed, their most notable signing, of course, was Paul Bastard, no relation to any TV politician. He was appointed as their supporter liaison officer back in May. Almost 6 million views of that particular tweet. I mean, talk about viral and talk about a world of childish giggling. Can't beat it, can you? You need it sometimes. So, to those players that departed then, Nigel, veteran Dean Moxey, Omar Musa, Brad Ash, Ofranda Zanzala, Oscar Threlkeld, Lirak Hassani and Finlay Krask. Just the 7 players with nearly 400 Torquay appearances between them, so it's a lot of experience out the door there.
Half those were from Dean Moxey. He seems to have been there for a while, hasn't he? And he certainly comes under the veteran category, but he's done his time, he's done a good service, and he was probably one of the surviving members of that failed playoff campaign there to get back into league during lockdown when Hartlepool prevailed and a certain Mr. Lucas Coverland scored that equalising goal. And
indeed.
But for the sort of missed penalties, he would have been the hero of the hour, wouldn't he? But yeah, all clubs have to go through that, don't they? Getting rid of the sort of stalwarts of the club, and they've gone through that, and thankfully they seem to have managed that transition well for them. It's the players they've brought in as we'll come onto. They've certainly added younger legs, and it's just about managing that change, isn't it? And one hero departs and new heroes come in, don't they?
There might be several, to be fair. So same keepers from last season. James Hayman signed a new deal for 25-26, whilst Matt Wonnacott was retained. So Nigel, they've got their number 1 and their number 2 sorted. That's always a good boy to be, isn't it?
There's always question marks over keeper. I know I listen to a lot of the Torquay podcasts, and then they do sort of question James Hammond at times, but he's Paul Watton's man, isn't he? He came with him from Truro, so it's like we've said in many of these sort of preview videos. If you trust your goalkeeper, you're 50% of the way there, haven't you? And he's done a good job. I mean, we had the best defensive record in the league last year, as we know, but I think Torquay weren't far behind us. I think they had the joint second or third, didn't they?
Yeah, so second.
So it's obviously working, and as I say, it's somebody that you can trust. And again, pretty much like Lenny here at number 2, again, you've got to trust your number 2 to be ready to come in, and if they're developing alongside the number 1, then that's all you can really hope for, isn't it? So obviously there's a good relationship there between the two of them, and it works for them. So
to the defence, Your Honour, Matt Carson, Jay Falston and Jordan Dyer were all retained for the 25-26 season. Ed Palmer then extended for the season ahead. Right back Jordan Thomas signed a 2-year deal after his loan spell from Yeovil last season, and vice captain Sam Dreyer signed a new 2-year deal. So that sextet, Nigel, they were all part of, as we already mentioned, the joint second best defence in National League South last season. So why would they change it? As a defensive pairing, I think Dreyer and Dreyer, is it? Dreyer and Dreyer. Yeah, certainly a tongue twister, but I think as a pairing they were probably the best in the league, weren't they? As a consistent pairing, and I know they didn't keep as many clean sheets as us, but just as a defensive unit, it just gives the rest of the squad that confidence, doesn't it? Down here, I mean, we didn't score as many goals as them, but just having that defensive unit behind you, if you haven't got to go out and score 2, 3, 4 goals to win a game, then it gives you great confidence that, I know Arsenal did it years ago, didn't they? The old 1-0 to the Arsenal, and you can, it's, what is it the saying? Goals win games, but defences win championships. So, yes, they do. Hopefully, from Torquay's point of view, they're hoping that consistency will take them that one step further. Yeah. So to the midfield, and the retainees were Dylan Morgan and Dan Hayfield. Monash Sundere signed after leaving Tamworth. Callum Dolan signed a 1-year deal after leaving Fleetwood Town. He had a previous loan spell with the Gulls in 2023. Sonny Blue Low Everton signed after he left Yeovil last season. And finally, Matt Worthington signed a 3-year deal, previously of Yeovil and Bournemouth. He spent last season at Oldham, and he was also appointed club captain fairly recently. So Nigel, retainees or Yeovilies in their midfield, basically? Yeah, exactly, and that's probably the reason why you look at it and you think that Torquay are many people's favourites for the league, isn't it? They've obviously seen that's an area where they need to improve, and what a better way, Matt Worthington, he was like captain of Yeovil when they won the league 2 years ago, and rock, and you know what you're going to get from him, and then Sonny Blue Low Everton, Worthington, National League experience, really probably a National League player, probably playing a level lower than what he should at least be playing, and for me that's that creativity that he brings. We'll come on to strikers in a minute, but the strikers they've got in as well, if you've got the midfield that's solid as well in there and providing those chances,
you're going to go far, aren't you? So yeah, it's certainly some, the additions they've made have sort of made people step and take notice. I mean, it's like, we all know like the Andy Carrolls and that other teams are signing, but these are proper players that know the level that and you can't beat that experience of the level. I don't think so. Yeah, for me, and a lot of people have been saying it. That's probably why Torquay are many people's favourites to, as I say, go that one step further.
Yeah. So Nigel's keen to look at the strikers, so shan't keep him waiting. Up top, Matt J, last season's top scorer Cody Cook, Jordan Young and Jaden Crosby, they were all retained. Louis Dennis signed a 2-year deal after leaving League 2 Bromley. Sonny Fish also signed on a 2-year deal, someone Paul Watton had wanted for the last 3 years now. And one final outgoing as well, with Ben Seymour joining Taunton Town on a season-long loan. So Nigel, lots of striking options for the goals. Dennis, Young and Cook all on the score sheet last weekend, of course. And I want to repeat the trick at the Gallagher as well.
Scary when you look at it. I mean, I watched back the highlights and that Jordan Young goal. Do you know what I mean? It's a contender for not only goal of the month, it's a goal of the season contender straight off the bat.
Right,
Do you know what I mean? It's like, he was a standout player last year when they signed him from Yeovil. It was a surprise, because I say the season before he was a standout for Yeovil in this league. So he was one of those that you would expect to kick on with Yeovil in the National League. Definitely. But for Torquay to get him mid-season like they did was, kick-started their season really.
Did, yeah.
And then you've got like the experience of Matt J coming back. I know he came back sort of towards the end of I think it was the January transfer window in the NFL. He came back from Colchester, didn't he? And and then they've got players like Louis Dennis and Sonny Fish. And, they've all played for clubs around this area as well. Like Louis Dennis is synonymous with Bromley, isn't he? I think he did go to Portsmouth for a while, but he did come back to Bromley, and he's always been a standout performer. And then Sonny Fish again had spells at Tunbridge and Welling in this league. I know it's a player that we've looked at in the past to sort of come in, but he's sort of tried to go up a few levels. I think he went to Gateshead and Solihull last year. I think he was at, but he had his injury issues. So, and I think he's actually injured now. He got injured in pre-season, so he's not really had a pre-season. So he's not expected to start for a few weeks, but. He's not somebody they're going to miss with the likes of Jordan Young, Dennis and Cook.
Well, Cook there as well. I mean, Cook's a
mean,
particular favourite of mine. I really enjoy how he plays. And certainly his time he had at Bath and the amount of goals that he scored, sort of a similar mould to, say, Jeffers at St Albans. He'd always get the goals and keep that team in a certain lofty position. You could see with Bath last season after they lost Cook and how much further down the table they were. But you had a player like Cook and his goals in a team that's already high up. Mm-hmm. It's not much further for them to go up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's your archetypal number 9, isn't he? He makes the ball stick up front, and if you've got those players like the likes of Young, Dennis, running off of them, and Matt Jade's come in as well, with his experience. Yeah. You can't help but score. Do you know what I mean? It's just like it just sends fear into the opposition defences, doesn't it? Because you haven't just got that one threat. You've got multiple threats, and they're coming from deep, and they're coming from the wings, and it's just you literally got to be on your game, and it's certainly going to be a test for our defence on Saturday. And I know we're defensively set up, and we look good defensively. Yeah. Away from home, didn't we? And we do generally play well against teams that want to come on to you, and we can catch on the break. So, I think it's just set up for an intriguing game, and it's hopefully we'll get like a 3,000 plus crowd, because Torquay fans do travel in numbers. It's early season, isn't it? Exactly. So we should hopefully see some goals. And
so in terms of form, if you can call it that, of course, at this early stage, the goals were top. At one point last season in National League South, they ultimately missed out on the title and therefore automatic promotion by just 2 goals, and then lost to Boreham Wood in the playoffs. Know the feeling. Their pre-season fixtures included home games against Newport County, Plymouth Argyle and Exeter City. They had 3 wins, a draw and a defeat in their games. They scored 12, conceded 9. They opened at home in the league to Enfield this weekend just gone and won 3-1. Those 3 different first half scorers we mentioned earlier. First time the goals have been top on opening day in 15 years. So Nigel, how do you rate their chances this season? Missing out by 1 goal this time instead, perhaps?
I think they'll be up there. I just can't see no reason why they wouldn't be. I mean, they've got no negative baggage, I would say.
Yeah.
Of the other teams that have come up, or we expect to be in contention, maybe other than Dorking, they've got that consistency there, but Ebbsfleet have come down, Dagenham have come down, Chelmsford have completely built their squad, a mid-table team, and the money they've spent, there's going to be that added pressure on them. But with Torquay, you can just see that progression. They've just they've retained the best players they want to keep. They've retained the core of that squad. We've talked about the defensive unit and the goalkeeper unit, duo there. It's just that solid core, and adding people like Worthington, Dennis, all the others that we've talked about.
There's loads of them.
Sonny Blue, Everton. It's just like you just gone up that next level. So for me, they're the ones that if you had to put a bet on for the league champions at this stage of the season, it would be Torquay.
You're just wondering, come close to the end of the season, last 5, 10, 15, you are wondering if they're in a similar throng, a group of teams that are trying to get there. Which way will their minds go? Will they wobble potentially like last season?
There's question mark. All the teams that are up there, there's question marks over, isn't there?
Yeah.
And we've said it, off camera as well. No disrespect, but Paul Watton, this is really the first season that he's managed at this level where there is that added expectation. I mean, he got Torquay out of that relegation dogfight, didn't he, a few seasons ago? They had all them games. They had them games in hand, didn't they? And they were playing like 3 games a week for like 2 or 3 weeks. A few seasons ago, and you managed to get them out of that. But again, it was a back to the wall, them against us sort of mentality. Yeah. Last year with Torquay, they just had the takeover. There wasn't really an expectation. It was just that euphoria going into the season that he had to build that squad up, and he did take a few players from Truro
almost
with
groundwork for the following season.
Exactly. So he's kind of set that up to have a good season. But it's all right doing that, but you've got to deliver. And when that pressure gets there, when you're playing all those games around Christmas time, and you do get 1 or 2 bad results, it's how you react to that and how you come back from that and push on again. Because and it's similar to what George says about Maidstone. They have got a target on their back because they are Torquay United. That they are the biggest club in this league. They've got the history, they get the crowds, they've got the budget. Everything's set up from. They are a professional club. They're a league club in all but name, aren't they? Really. So and they're playing at the 6th tier of the club, and they get a good big away following. So with that big away following becomes that expectation, doesn't it? So it's how they manage that as a collective and deliver on the pitch. I mean, don't forget last time they won this league, they had Gary Johnson in charge, didn't they? And we know the experience that he's got in the Football League. So again, it's about them developing together as a management team, as a playing group, and as a fan base. But all the steps are there for them to be successful, aren't they? So it's just about them, from their point of view, is delivering on the pitch.
And with all that expectation that's there, you would wonder there can't be that many quirks that are going to stop Torquay, and yet they're head-to-head that the Stones have with Torquay. More memorable clashes from the past, an exceptionally good record in most matches. There was the 1-1 away draw and the 1-0 home win last season for the Stones. Just the one Torquay win in the last 13 against Maidstone. 11 wins for the Black and Amber Army, and that already mentioned 1-1 at Plainmoor from last season being the only draw in that time since we'd reformed back here. So Nigel, it's another overwhelmingly positive track record for the Stones to, fingers crossed, maintain.
Yeah, but then you go back even further than that, to our Football League days, because
there was another 5 then, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. So so of the 18 games that we've played, we've won 13, drawn 3, lost 2.
That's a bit rusty bin. Yep.
That is, that is an unbelievable record. And I know it's facts, stats, and different players, different ages, different generations. The game has changed, but it's just uncanny how that's always there. And and it's not always been that Maidstone have been higher placed teams, because 9 out of 10 of those, or 9% of those performances. I mean, the last season when we was in the Football League, when we beat them twice, they literally went on and won promotion that season. and for good measure, we beat them in the FA Cup as well.
Yeah.
And yet, we've done that again throughout the years. You know, when we was in National League South a few years ago, they was in the National League. They were high up in the National League as well. We beat them 1-0 with that Dan Wishart goal down here, and then again, most memorably of 2 seasons ago when we played them back to back and got the FA Cup win and the league win on consecutive Saturdays. So you know, there's lots of things that you think, well, you know, it shouldn't be a thing. However, it is a thing.
It is.
You know, and but then the flip side of that is, all good things come to an end, don't they? That's what I'm sort of thinking as well. I'm thinking, you know, it can't go on forever. You know, it's got to come to an end sometime, and they've got to get a win sometime. But you know, who knows? I mean, again, it's like we've just said, it's early season. Both teams are not really hitting form yet, and I think as a fan base, Torquay are saying, you know, if we can go to Maidstone and get a draw, because they've never not lost away to Maidstone.
Yeah.
All those, you know, the wins they've had have both been at home, and the draws have always been at home as well. I think there was one draw in the Football League days, because that season we drew home and away with them. But yeah, they've never won away from Plainmoor, so you know, again,
long may that continue.
Yes, hope so. Yeah.
So with all that mentioned, Stones would likely be confident of a win on Saturday. They do have a mixed first home game record at the Gallagher, winning 4 in a row before the late defeat to eventual champions Truro City last season, and only 1 win in 8 before that. But again, like we say, it's Torquay coming to town. Don't like coming to the county town. Your thoughts on how that home record could translate into another positive Stones result on Saturday, Nigel?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it there, haven't I? You know, we are set up to catch teams on the break. You know, we're defensively sound, and that doesn't look like it's changed much over the summer with the new recruits that have come in. You know, Alexis Beedon looked a colossus on Saturday. You know, he literally won every header, and you know, playing in there alongside George Fowler. And
there was a touch of cramp at one point, I hasten to add.
Yeah.
I don't know if John will clip that up for us on the video, but he was getting treatment for some cramp by one of the Hemel players, and I've got to admit, it looked like he was about to have his leg torn off by the opponent there. It wasn't too friendly first.
Yeah, but you know, so that side of it, and we do tend to play well against teams that want to play football and want to come on to us, and you know, that works to our advantage, especially at home. And you know, you'd expect there to be a big crowd on Saturday. It's going to be a sunny day. Torquay are going to bring a few, so yeah, I'm just expecting a good game, and you know, I'm expecting goals, and I think probably looking at it, both teams at this early stage would accept a draw. You know, I know you the old adage is, you know, win your home games and draw away, isn't it? But you know, this early season playing Torquay at home, you know, and they're like one of the promotion favourites. I think a draw would be a good result. Obviously, I'd take the win. I'm not going to, you know. But yeah, I'll tell you, I'm just looking for a good performance, and hopefully we can maintain that positive record.
So remember, if you can't make it to the game on Saturday, be sure to tune in to Fred Atkins and our Nigel here from 2:40 on Stones Live. The gremlins have been exercised after last weekend. No more faint or underwater sounds this time. Fingers crossed, you'll see them on the hot take and then hear them on the highlights once they go online. So it's been just under 4 months since our last competitive home match at the Gallagher Stadium. Everyone at the club is eager to have you back again, as we are sure you are too, to come back to. You really can miss a place, so no FOMO. Please get your tickets on Fanbase, the club's new ticket provider, and there aren't many bigger opponents to start the season than in the form of Torquay United. I mentioned them once and I think I got away with it. Really looking forward to this one. Our thanks to you all out there as ever for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Search for the Maidstone United podcast. See or hear you for our next preview ahead of the next league home game of the season. It's the midweek evening clash against Hampton and Richmond. And as always,
come on, you Stones!